Welcome to the Model Health Show. This is fitness and nutrition expert Shawn Stevenson here with my amazing, talented, beautiful co-host and producer, Jade Harrell. What's up, Jade?
What's up, Shawn?
How are you today?
Man, I am love-alicious.
Love-alicious?
Love-alicious.
Tell me what that means.
Well, I am full of love today, and it's delicious because it's your anniversary.
It is. It is my anniversary today.
Love-alicious.
Yes, 9 years of
Wow.
marriage with my beautiful wife.
Y'all coming on in, right?
And so this is a very special episode also. But, you know, because of the travel schedule, and shout out to everybody in Atlanta that just came out to see me at the meet and greet and book signing. That was amazing. I really love that city. Fantastic.
Yeah.
The Whole Foods there. Fantastic. They've got a barbecue bar. Just one bar dedicated to barbecue. You know, it's really
As it
amazing.
should be.
But it was just a really great experience. And just thank you guys. Also did a segment, went to CNN and did a
it.
segment on HLN, which was just crazy.
That's funny.
And this is the power of an idea. You know, we always like to reiterate that because none of this stuff existed. You know, the Model Health Show is an idea. Sleep Smarter was an idea.
A pretty
You know.
good idea.
And how did I
should
go?
say.
Well, thank you. From where I come from to being on CNN, you know, it's just, I'm really grateful and just trying to take advantage of each moment to really appreciate, you know, every step along the way. So, but shout out to everybody. But just the schedule has been a little crazy. So you guys are going to be hearing this after our anniversary, but today is actually our anniversary.
But you will still be celebrating.
You know it. It's an everyday thing.
It's
You know,
a
this is just a
lifelong
mark
thing.
for humans to realize like, oh, yes, you know, but for us, it's been a continuous growth and love every day. And that's what we really want to talk about today. And so today's a
Absolutely.
very special episode. We're going to talk about the 5 keys to an amazing relationship.
There we go.
Why does this matter? Why does this matter? Well, I've said this time and time again that I truly do believe this in over a decade of clinical experience, working with thousands and thousands of people, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people impacted by some form or fashion with my work. And I've seen this firsthand that the number one influential factor on your health and your success in life is your relationships, right? And the quality of your relationships is going to dictate so many things about you. So why not have that part dialed in?
Yeah.
All right. So that's why this matters. And who is this for? Does it mean, you know, what if it was like, well, I'm singing a single lady song right now, Shawn. All right. I'm doing the thing with the Beyonce hand, Shawn. You know, I'm working on it. Well, this is one of those things where, you know, it's so important. What if we can get the information before we get into the
How about
situation?
that? Man, 14 years ago, would that have helped us?
Right. To be prepared, to come into it with some knowledge base. Because a lot of this stuff is an experiment. Like you're just kind of thrust into it and it's like, figure it out.
Yeah, we're still figuring it out.
You know, and a lot of people struggle to figure it out.
Right.
You know, and this is why the divorce rate is at an all-time high, of course. But also, this isn't just about if somebody is in a situation like that. It's about realizing it beforehand, you know, where it gets too bad. Is it the right relationship for you? So we're going to open the eyes on a lot of different topics today. But we're going to talk about whether you're in a relationship right now, how to make it the best of the best, most amazing, passionate relationship. But also, if you're still not, if you're in transition, we'll call it if you're in transition, in relationship limbo right now, and you get out of it, you're going to come into it as a much greater person, able to handle that situation with a lot of love and a lot of purpose.
For sure.
All right. But before we do, let's give a quick shout out to our show sponsor, On It. Head over to onnit.com/model, and you're going to get 10% off all of your health and human performance supplements. I'm holding in my hand as Jade opened the bottle and smelled it right before we started recording.
I just wanted
This
to know.
emulsified MCT oil, the strawberry flavor. And you came over to the house
did.
and I made you my lion's mane tea. Tell everybody about it. How delicious was it?
It was so good. How good was it? It was so good. It was very tasty. But by the end, I was still trying to get the last drops out.
Yeah,
Like,
she
is
was
there
like,
any more tea? You know?
Using her finger. Who tries to finger out a drop of?
Me?
I'm just
I do.
kidding. I'm
I
just
do
kidding. It's
things
all
like
good.
that.
So there was a strawberry emulsified MCT oil that
Good
was
stuff.
in there. And this is incredibly important for your brain and your nervous system. This is functioning mostly on dietary fats. And when you become deficient in these things, your brain and nervous system start to slow down processes. So this makes everything fire faster. And it's insulation that buffers you from stress. All right. So MCT oil is fantastic. It's a very quick source of energy for your cells. It doesn't have to do a lot of conversion, because just say your cells are running on the American dollar, and and the food coming in, maybe that piece of chicken is like some yen. Okay. So there has to be a conversion process, and it takes some work to do that. But this is coming in straight up American dollar, and your body knows what to do with it. All right. I hope that makes sense.
It does. You just go into the same line. You won't be sent down to take 2 doors down or the other. You're fine right here.
There you go.
We'll take it. We'll exchange it. We're working it out.
And also, I've got in my hand the Hemp Force Active. So they just upgraded and changed the formula for the Choco Maca.
It's back.
Okay. But the vanilla acai is still the same, but this one has been changed a little bit, and they've added in a couple of new things to make it more kind of rounded out and increase the L-lysine. So there's different amino acids that make up these complete proteins, but it was a little bit low in lysine. So Aubrey Marcus, a good friend, CEO of Onnit, decided to combine the hemp protein with some pea protein and organic brown rice protein to upgrade the formula and make it more well-rounded in the amino acid profile that you get from it. And I got to tell you, it actually tastes better, which was
it was already good.
It was already great. Mm-hmm. And now it actually tastes better. So check it out if you haven't already. Go to onnit.com/model for 10% off. Now let's get into iTunes Review of the Week.
Here's another fun one. 5 stars. Girl from Earth 29. Informative, engaging, and inspiring. Thank you, Shawn and Jade, for your reliably great show. I know I can listen to any episode and learn something new about health and beyond. I sometimes even binge listen. Better than those donuts, right? I'm a fellow health enthusiast and really appreciate all the time and energy you put into researching topics that are close to my heart. Your show greatly enriches my life. I highly respect your opinion and enjoy Jade's sweet and hilarious comedy, too. When I listen, I feel engaged as if I was having a discussion with close friends. I really appreciate your admiration and devotion to your wife and children, too, including family love as part of the greater vision of global health. Like you, my own personal health crisis put me on a path of avid self-care and healing. I particularly got on this path because of my battles with candida, endometriosis, back pain, and dental problems. All these ailments have been my greatest teachers, and I bow in gratitude to each of them. I am currently particularly interested in the remineralization of teeth, as presented in Ramiel Nagel's book, Cure Tooth Decay. I hope that that's a tough one to say. I hope that in one of these episodes you will take an in-depth look at oral health and nutrition. I find it interesting because the mouth is the beginning of the digestive system and can oftentimes be the indicator of our inner health.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your opinions and research on the matter. I will continue tuning in and share your show with friends. Thank you for staying true to your path and sharing your wisdom with the world. Big love from Big Sur, California. Candace is 40.
Wow, Candace, that was absolutely amazing. Yeah, right. And there's so much intuitive vibe in there about, we've got a show coming up here in the near future on all things teeth, all right, all things dental health. And I'm really excited about that. But also, how did you know my wife was coming on today, and talking about how that is a big part of what I do and who I am. Mm-hmm. And I just want to acknowledge you for what you said. I mean, bowing to those illnesses as your teachers, and that perspective is so powerful and empowering, so that you can actually learn the lesson. Because every single thing that we're faced with in our life, good or not so good, there's a valuable lesson in it. There's something to learn from it, and it takes a very evolved human being to see that. And I just want to thank you for being who you are, and I appreciate that so much. Thank you for leaving the reviews on iTunes, everybody. Yes. It's so awesome. So awesome. Appreciate it. Now, on that note, let's go ahead and get to our topic and our special guest. So today,
extra special.
So today we're talking about 5 keys to an amazing relationship. Not an all right relationship. How's your relationship? It's all right. It's okay. We don't want to say that. We want to be like, it's amazing. I love my mate. I love my partner. Everything is auspicious. Word of the day. We're not going to make that a thing, okay? But this is so important, because what I mentioned earlier in the show is that our relationships are truly the most intimate and important factor on determining our success and our health in life. And this is an overall part of being a model. being a model for health, being an inspiration to those around you. It's so inspiring when you see people who are happy, and that relationship is a big part of this. So today I want to provide you with some huge insights that we've learned along the way in study and in practicality. All right. So we have today my very, very special guest, my wife, Ann Stevenson, on the show to share her side of the story. Because it's not just going to be like, he just makes it sound good, but, from her perspective as well. So I'd like to welcome to the Model Health Show, Ann Stevenson.
Hi.
Jade's like, you're so cute.
Because that's how I feel about her. It's obvious how much you love her.
Aw.
But it's easy to love her. She really is an amazing woman and a great friend and brilliant and an awesome mother. I could go on and on. So I am very excited to have Ann back. She's also here for a repeat.
I received that.
There we go.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. We apply here. So today is a special day, and 9 years of marriage, but we've been together for 12 years.
Yep.
And thank you. I just want to thank you really for marrying me. Thank you so much.
I feel the same. Like, you've changed a lot of things in my life. So it's thank you is not even a word to describe,
Baby, you give me all, I'm getting verklempt. Well, today, guys.
Christmas here. Why didn't you tell me you were going to do this?
I did tell you. I told you super close to this time. But here's the thing. So
super close.
We want to dive in and share with you guys some really tangible, actionable insights and tips on building an amazing relationship. Because as you guys know, relationships take work. All right. This stuff doesn't just magically happen. In the beginning, you've got like this cocktail of chemicals that get released when you first get interested in somebody. And it doesn't matter. All those annoying things, you don't even know about them yet.
Okay.
Think they're so cute.
Oh, they are
But then after about a year and a half, 2 years, they're like, would you stop?
Right. Why
What are you
chewing
doing?
like that?
Why are you chewing, period?
Right.
So how do you keep the love
Yeah.
on fire, and that transition period into real love? Because in the beginning, of course, there's love there, but there's also a kind of infatuation and I
And
really
discovery.
Yeah, of course. And I feel that, attraction and sex even it's intuitive and instinctual. Those things are instinctual. A relationship is not necessarily instinctual,
Right.
all right, based on our evolutionary programming. So this is, again, about being a more evolved human being and how do we go about that? And we have to have models. We have to have some strategies for this. And so let's go ahead and dive right in. And so the first key here to an amazing relationship, number one, is to help them to fulfill their number one driving force.
Wow.
All right, help them to fulfill their number one driving force. So what does that mean? Well, basically, incredible work by Tony Robbins. He's drilled it down to the 6 specific human needs that we all have. And these are the 6. Whatever thing you think about that you need, it's somewhere in here. And the 6 human needs are, number one, a need for certainty.
Yes.
All right, we need certainty. We need to know that the lights will be on. We need to know that I will be all right. We need to know that the kids are taken care of. We need to know that if I take this risk that I'm going to be okay. Right. That certainty is important. It's a need that we all have. I need to know that my bills are paid, whatever the case might be. And that spans so many different aspects of our life. Certainty. I need to know that if I marry you, you're going to stay with me and only me. All right. Certainty. The second one is uncertainty. All right. Uncertainty / variety. Because what if everything was certain all the time?
Right.
You would be super bored. All right. Super bored. If you were playing a game or watching a movie and you knew that, you know exactly what's going to happen all the time, it would just bore you out of your mind.
Well, sure.
Unless you're 3 or 4 years old, you want the same movie over and over again,
that's
right? But this is
That's
also
funny.
Kids see through new eyes all the time. But that's a whole other story.
That speaks to the reason why you could atrophy your response and awareness,
Right.
if things were always the same.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot that goes into us knowing what's going to happen or being prepared if something sudden came.
Yeah.
And if it were continually the same thing, then we would start
Yes.
to diminish. I would
Exactly.
believe,
No,
so.
you're right. You're right on the money.
Yeah.
So we need that variety. We need that uncertainty because that helps keep us going. It helps get us up in the morning in a strange way. So that's the second human need. The third one is significance. And this is
That's
very,
probably
very
me.
big. This is very, very big here. And significance, we all want to feel like we matter. Bottom line. In pretty much any context you can think about, any example, there's some significance there that matters for you. Fourth human need is love. All right. Love/connection. Because a lot of people settle for connection today. So love is still the big thing, but connection and love is a human need. So he says that those are kind of the basic needs, and then there's two higher needs, and these are the needs of the spirit. And so the fifth human need is growth. All right, growth. We all need to feel like we're progressing, like we're moving towards something, like we're getting better. And then the sixth human need is contribution. All right, contribution. So being able to give back to what is given to you, being able to help to make something else complete, to build something, to uplift, whatever the case might be, however you want to color that. But those are the six human needs. And so number one, in the context of building an amazing relationship, you have to help them to fulfill their number one need, their number one driving force.
So we may have all six of these, but there's
we all have
that
all
takes,
six.
Okay.
But it's where they rank for
all of
you.
these, exactly.
And you have to find out which one is the big thing for you. And we actually went through some practices to figure this out. And so if Ann can talk a little bit about it,
to find out for each other.
So talk a little bit about
Brilliant.
your big need and kind of how that works with us.
And actually, I also want to point out too that the needs change also in different stages of your life. Say, in single life, being a new parent, like later on in age. I think that as time goes by, certain needs change, like your top need. But for me, consistently, it's always been certainty. And this was such a huge revelation for both of us because it seems a lot of things, and this is what I also talk about, like getting back to basics. It's basic things that we take for granted in relationship, any type of relationship that we have, where we don't just go back to the level base, like what's this house built on, and us actually speaking on it. Mm-hmm. So when we had that conversation of our human needs and just realizing the certainty, him being an entrepreneur can be a tough life, as I know most of the listeners know. You're juggling a lot, but yet trying to fulfill your passion, what makes you alive the most. But then, especially if you have a partner, that can be quite challenging because, as for me, mine is certainty. And I think most people, it's like that weird conversation where, and I hear this a lot, with friends, where it's like they're supposed to know, like they're supposed to do this, they're supposed to do that. But when you really think about it, has there been an actual honest relationship? I mean, conversation on this,
right.
So there's a lot there and a lot to take from that, because you just said it. A lot of us take for granted, and I know I used to feel the same way. It's like, you should just know what to do to make me happy or to help me to be happy. Mm-hmm. And we put so much on the other person to be the one who makes us happy, but ultimately that's even an illusion. Which we could talk about in a little bit. But the bottom line is, it wasn't until we actually had a conversation about it and talked about it. And so for Ann, number one human need. And so we went through some exercises, and which I'll talk about in just a second, but we took the top two human needs. Okay. And number one for her was certainty. Number two was love. For me, number one was growth. Number two was love. So we really connected on that love. Yeah. But for me to have that driving force of growth, and to the degree, so every day is an amazing opportunity for me. And at the end of the night, when I lay my head down, it's a great day every day if I got a chance just to improve even a little bit. Like, I have to feel like I improved. It's a fail only if I feel like I didn't get better. So having that kind of mentality and function and kind of way of being in the world of growth and development, and even taking risk and doing things to kind of get outside of my comfort zone to be better, living and having a relationship with somebody who's all about certainty, you can see how we can start to have some conflict.
Can we talk about like the raw food classes?
Sure, yes.
Yeah.
Please.
So early in Shawn's career, we used to teach raw food classes. Well, I was like his sidekick, like, making all the food in the kitchen while he's teaching. And this is, and I think he's talked about this in a lot of episodes where like his first two people, it was just 2 people in Mom's kitchen, but it grew and grew. It was like 20 people in my mom's kitchen. And he would get elated by seeing their transformation. And no matter how much hard work it is, and we're talking about spending so much money at Whole Foods because everything had to be organic and all these things, and 7-course meals. And it speaks volumes on him talking about the growth factor where it just thrived him. You can just see him and contribution and just seeing his life just expand. But for me, I'm sitting there like biting my nails like, well, this is tight, And the only cool part was at the end, 4 hours of being in the kitchen and then 4 hours of speaking to these people and seeing how much we've actually changed their life. So it always felt worth it at the end. But going through it, and we would end up in conflicts time and time again. Or he would just mention we're having another class. I would look at him like, but I would never say anything. Yeah. Instead of like, he should know. He should know like we're still trying to figure stuff out. And being an entrepreneur, and it's a lot of things to handle in one. But I just think that just a simple conversation, heart to heart, where no ego is involved, just simply being curious like a kid.
Yeah.
Talking to each other, that heals so much. That was just the best thing I think that we ever did.
Now, if you're like many of us, you went along that way for a while before you realized, hey, this conversation needs to happen, right? Yeah. My question is, how do you approach that conversation and come to the table without the ego, without the hurt and the suppositions and assumptions to even get to those basic things and have the breakthrough that you're talking about?
The real talk, a lot of people don't ever have the conversation.
Yeah.
We just keep suppressing. And sometimes we don't even analyze what our problem is. We just feel we just don't like it. And then we start to not like the person. So I think it's important. So for us, it was collectively like we saw, it's always great to seek outside counsel, And for us, it was in the form of Anthony Robbins, doing a course. It was, what is it called? Love and Passion.
Yeah.
And our Lovers for Life was part of it too. Yeah. But so we got this course, and because we were both interested in kind of personal development, just, but with her at the time, real talk, she's probably just more like casual, but it was enough of interest for us to sit down and do it together. Mm-hmm. And we both wanted to be happy. We wanted to be happier. We knew that something was a little bit not connecting. Yeah. So we sat down together and we went through it all. And that's where we gained these insights, because I think and I just had this realization like a few hours ago that if you don't have an example of what this looks like, you're literally thrust into chaos.
Yeah.
Her parents broke up. Her parents are not together. My parents broke up. They're not together. We don't have any close examples of what that looks like. And even our friends, like one married couple, earlier at that time, and not having a great example. I mean, what are you going to do again, except you're going to struggle. Hopefully you figured out, but hope floats, you got to be careful about that. So bottom line was we used this modeling and found out a template and some things that we can conversate on, and we had to get really open and honest about it. And so these 6 human needs, if you can figure that part out and help your significant other to fulfill that need, it's going to open up a whole new world to you. And here's why. Here's how it happened. So once I really got that she needed to feel certainty in order to just be a person, I focused in and put my full attention on making sure she felt like everything was taken care of, because that's what she really wanted, so because I had this big vision, like I wanted to impact the life of at least 1 million people at that time. And I was taking risk and spending money I didn't have sometimes to experiment with this supplement or whatever. And those are the things that helped to make me who I am. But at the same time, it was making her wildly uncomfortable and not being there to support me. Well, she was, but not necessarily, she wasn't excited about it.
Yeah,
Here's
right.
what happened.
Right.
Like that one time I walked through at home, and he has this big, huge swing in the living room.
I remember that
like
swing.
this yoga swing.
I know that
It's
swing.
like, what just happened? All right.
It was there. It was the yoga swing
Right.
story.
But
Anyways,
I get
but
that.
this is
Yeah.
really what's important here is that once I focused in on doing that and making sure that she felt secure, that all of our kind of financial things were met, all that stuff was taken care of, what happened was nothing short of what would seem like a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
She completely switched over and became more about growth than me. All right. She became the person who pushed me. Instead of me wondering, like, why are you not with me on this? She was out in front of me saying, hey, you should do this.
There we
How
go.
about trying this?
Right.
Because it took care of that number one thing for her.
Sure.
And that's what we all want. We want that person to be this way that, quote, we want them to be. But
Right.
it's really about, are you doing the thing to love them how they want to be loved and support them how they want to be supported?
And I can see how we can miss that often, because we'll think that what's number one for me is going to be number one for my mate. And that's not necessarily true. You know, we have different needs to be fulfilled. My question then, actually two questions. One, how did you discover, or give us some tips on figuring out which of these 6 is number one? Because they all seem very important and relevant. And then number two, by channeling all that energy into her number one need, did you compromise or have to make adjustments to your number one? And if you did, how did you do that?
Oh, such a great question. Do you want to answer it first?
I'm saying that because I'm 14 years married, and I'm still like, let's figure out how to get this great.
I think
Yeah.
as far as like with figuring out the needs, you know,
How did you discover yours?
It's
Ann?
simple. It's just really, after we talk about them and list them, just be honest with yourself about what is most important to you. Do you want to feel significant more than anything? You have to be honest with yourself. You can't be honest with your partner if you can't be honest with yourself. It's really kind of that simple. I mean, there was some little, written things in the program, but
Got it.
it's really just being honest about it. And by the way, we'll post in the show notes. So the modelhealthshow.com, we'll put in the show notes talk that Tony Robbins did on these 6 human
great.
needs, a TED Talk, which is kind of a brief introduction into it,
He's
which is
fast.
really awesome.
Yeah, he'll go through fast.
Mm-hmm.
So
So that's really what it is right there. And then the other part of the question,
yeah. So once you discovered what hers was,
Right.
and you channeled all that energy into her number one, did that compromise yours? And if it did, how were you able to make that?
the thing is, I always, based on his character, even when we were first dating, there were certain things in his character that I knew for sure, and I think that this really applies to people that are single and looking for somebody, or even if you do have your mate, there's certain characters, things that you can foresee into the future with this person based on the characters that they're presenting. And some of those characters, which one of them, one of the many reasons I love him to this day, is when he speaks about something and he commits to something, he always follows through, or he gives it 120 and follows through. So it was never a matter of the frustration I would have with him not seeing my uncertainty. It was just that it was not mentioned. So when it came to his growth and seeing him evolve as a person through all these different transformations that were happening with people around, I knew that there was something there, and I knew that I had to support. So he always had that support, and so it was never about him compromising, because he would see that time and time again. And the more comfortable I got, the more I was even able to lift him up even more. So it never went away where it was just like, I'm push away. I mean, I give it to you, but it was with a stank attitude. Like,
yeah, it's never about compromising. Don't use that word in the context of a relationship. That's poisonous. That means you are lowering your standards. It's really about complementing, finding a way to complement and to blend. And so for me, it took a simple shift. Like, it was just discovering, like, but now, instead of me compromising on what my highest value was, I put my growth into her.
There you go. There you go.
I focused on, how can I make this, instead of me trying to change the world. It starts really with her, and she's the person that I'm doing all of this stuff for, and a big part of it, in my mental construct, so that's what I just shifted my focus to growth on her and our family. So that's number one.
That's like what Jay Papasan said, and that what makes all the rest of it happen.
The dominoes.
Yeah,
the domino effect, which funny enough, you see it worked out by simply investing in the right place, the one thing.
Yep.
Right.
And it just made all the other dominoes fall. So
and also want to add to, like, as far as modeling, because we didn't have that as far as like relationships and stuff in our life.
Yeah.
But one of the main things that I think that people tend to do is looking for this perfect model of like this perfect relationship that's a myth. Like nobody is even that perfect. Like
Mythbusters.
Because it's like, if you're not perfect, like how are you gonna expect your partner to be perfect too? So to us, it was just picking pieces from different couples that we really truly admire and making it our own as well. Yeah. And use it and creating our own model and discussing it with us. Because a lot of people, when they're getting into a relationship, or I even talk about this with one girl that is getting married, and it's like, have you thought about sitting down and thinking, what is that actually like being married? What does that actually look like? Mm-hmm. We just think about this grand day, but then don't think about you have to see this person every day. All those irritations that you might have right now, they're still going to be, then it's going to get bigger and bigger. But how does that look like? And who are people that you admire, couples that you admire and see? Because it's just not about, being together for a long period of time, but just having that passion, that just real connection every single day is what's important for me.
Yeah, and that just reminds me of the statement to focus on making your marriage better than your wedding day.
Love that.
Okay, make your marriage better than your wedding. So let's move on. That's number one, and that's a big one. That's a real big one, and it's probably it's the big domino there. So number one is help them to fulfill their number one driving force. Number two on our list of these 5 keys to an amazing relationship, number 2 is to never stop dating. All right, never stop dating. And so what do I mean by that? Well, again, once you kind of, quote, get used to somebody, all that stuff, the romance, and they just kind of starts to get pushed to the side. So some examples in our life, when you're dating, you do special things. You do exceptional things. You bring little gifts, compliments. You're doing a lot because you're just into them, so never stop being into that person. So on a pretty frequent basis, I find some way to, gift her with something, or to create a special experience, or I'm really, really big on complimenting. And I think it's probably like I overdo on the compliments because I'm obsessed with her anyway. So I'm constantly complimenting her, and of course that date time period. This is so important, is that with all the stuff we have going on today where everybody has to be everything, basically, if it's not scheduled, it's not important. You have to actually schedule this. Put it on your calendar.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Maybe it's every 2 weeks you guys have date night. Whether it's, especially if you have, in the context if you have kids, the babysitter's all set, or whatever the case may be, or if you've got built-in babysitters like we have, every teenager. But that can be the thing. But make sure that you have it planned out in advance. Like we got Beyonce's on the calendar when she comes next month. And then today, we've got one of the things with dating, do your favorite things together. We both love, and this is something we connect on, we love movies. We love superhero movies. So Lord of the Rings, we're just kind of nerds, we're nerded out with this stuff. And so we could just get together and go to these magical lands together, so we got advanced tickets to Suicide Squad for the new DC, so that's one of the things we're doing. So do stuff that you enjoy together.
But also another thing that we love to do together, is, personal development and just listening to things that just are really about developing ourselves. So just it's huge quality time for both of us to do. So it's amazing. So
that's really been an important part of our relationship too, is us kind of being on the same trajectory and wanting to, with the personal development, that kind of thing, which we'll talk about more in a minute. But it's also important to tune in, and this is where there's the different love languages, and there's a book and audio book that people can check out on that, the 5 love languages as well. But tuning in and finding out, how does that person want to be loved? This is kind of similar to the human needs, but there's a certain way that they feel that you love them more. It might be gifts, it might be compliment, it might be actions that you take. Maybe like doing the dishes really turns her on. Like, oh my goodness, the kitchen's so clean. Come here. Whatever it might be, So tuning in to find that stuff, but also with that awareness on both ends. So not just how you're loving them, but also them understanding too that, oh, he's trying to show me that he loves me and that I'm important. So stop and pay attention as well, to be a little bit more present, which I know you had to work on, because when you get in work mode, it's just like, and I'm just like a little kid, like, hey, baby, you look so pretty.
And that is his love language, which is, paying attention, like taking those 2 minutes to just like look at him and gaze in his eyes. And it's hard. I'm working on it sometimes, because I get in just focus mode, and
which I love.
I wanna crush it until I pick up my child, and then I can relax and gaze into his eyes. So again, knowing that is taking those few moments. It's not and it's not about me. Sometimes it's about him, and doing what he wants. Okay, I'm just gonna put this aside and just give him those few minutes. Because I swear, giving him those few minutes, like, my day is set for the rest of. He's so happy. It just works.
I love it.
I'm basically a puppy. So another thing too with the never stop dating is definitely this is the time to go tech free when the situation calls for it. Of course. So in some circumstances, it's not necessarily the best idea for you guys, if you haven't talked for a month, to go to a movie and just sit there where you're not talking again. But we make time so we could do a lot of stuff together. So when we are sitting there for dinner and sitting across from each other and having conversations, I'm not on my phone, right? My phone isn't involved. We might do a couple of Snapchats, or now it's Insta stories. Shout out to Instagram, guys. Follow me at Shawn Model, and you can even hang out with us here in the studio. We just did some stuff beforehand, but at Shawn Model. But I'm in the context when we're together, and I'm focused on her. She's the most important person in the room.
Yeah.
All right. We all like to people watch, and especially me being a scientist, I'm always observing something like, scratching my fake beard, my fake long beard, throwing it over my shoulder. But I'm so focused on her because it's intentional. I want to be there with her. I want her to know how important she is, and I want to enjoy this time.
And then plus, like, women, we like to run our mouth, and we just want you to listen. Yeah. So it's also a great opportunity to, just let loose, and that's always something like, oh, he's not listening to everything I'm saying. That's cool, but you get to have your time.
Let your rivers flow, I say.
Yes.
Let your rivers flow.
Yes.
So that's number 2, is to never stop dating, on these 5 keys to an amazing relationship. So let's move on to number 3 on this list. Number 3 is personal growth. Okay, this is a key to having an amazing relationship, is personal growth. So you have to work on yourself. All right, this is mandatory. And I love this quote that says that if there's no enemy within, there's no enemy outside of yourself. All right, because a lot of times in a relationship context, it starts to turn into this war. It's you against them in so many different situations. But how are you with yourself? Are you good? And so working on yourself so that you are a better person, that you have more compassion, that you have the energy, the mental fitness to be able to adapt in those situations that things can go terribly wrong in an instant. You could say or do something that damages your relationship forever,
right.
And it's just not worth it. But if you can work on yourself to be more prepared by this personal growth, it's going to be a critical element to you having the relationship with that you want. And it starts with, so for me personally, it was that study that this kind of solitude that I would take to find out how can I be better when I'm with her.
Yeah.
You know, just even looking into that. And you have to build that muscle because I didn't have it.
Yeah.
It was a very flimsy, like, you know, on like the cartoon when they would flex and then the bicep would drop down under the arm, you know, like, bloop. You know, so my compassion, flexibility was not there, you know, because I grew up in a very kind of, you know, violent atmosphere. And in a strange way, it's everybody's really looking out for themselves, you know, and it's not that there wasn't love there or that it wasn't, we would come together if it was against somebody else, you know, like, what did I say? Let's go, you know, but together it was constant conflict in our household growing up. And I had to develop that muscle. And to do that, I had to work on myself. I had to study. I had to apply. I had to consciously take action. Oh, this is an example or situation where I can apply what I just learned, you know, so.
That's pretty big for me. You know, I think I do a lot of study. And my husband's going to love this when he hears this. I do a lot of study, but then the drills and the practice of it don't happen until it's on him or after the fact. So right now I'm thinking how our conversations this morning could have gone differently, you know, had I worked on this a little bit more ahead of time.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't get damaged in the process.
Yeah. It's not about, and of course, and with all this stuff, it's not about being perfect. It's about being willing.
No, but
so
I want
let's
to be
talk.
better.
Yeah, that's what we're doing today. So let's talk a little bit about honesty in the context of this. So honesty is a big thing.
So when you work on yourself, it goes hand in hand with honesty, because like when you're honest with yourself, you get to see a clear picture on where your relationship stands, you know, and it might not be pretty, it might not, whatever the situation is, at least you know where you are at. And so I always say, you know, with people when they're working with, you know, within themselves, and I've met like on the book tour, I met so many people, and I had quite a few people that would come up and, you know, ask me the relationship questions, and ladies telling me like, you know, her husband, they are not wanting to be with me, and, you know, and all these things, and I am doing this, you know, going this path. And what I have to say, like, is, and that's what I told her, is when you're working within yourself and you're truly being honest within yourself, you will find that whatever the circumstance, the outcome that might happen, it will always be good. It will be, if it's you guys being together or being separate, no matter what, it will always be for the betterment of both people.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And when you find yourself that it's not, is because you haven't quite worked. You need to work more within yourself.
Wow.
And because you're gonna glow, it's gonna show. It's gonna show in everything that you say and you do. And your partner is gonna see that. And when it gets to the point where your partner just is asking you, oh, like, what did you make? Let me just have that. You know, your temperament is so different. When this happens, you changed. How did you do that? Then that the door opens, and the more it opens, then you're also helping them to get back to themselves. That's, my mom always says, you know, the main point of being in any relationship is to grow. And if you two are not growing, you know, then there's, you know, like, what are you guys doing?
Right.
So
I love it. And then there's the quote comes up for me is that the rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah, it does.
You can't help but elevate the energy in that household. And it's being it, you know, you do it, you bring it to it instead of you going and looking for it. Like, I need you to fulfill me. I need you to give me something. I need you to make me feel better. Of course, we all want that, and that's a part of a relationship. But in general, to have more moments like that where the person does do that, you bring it to it. You bring the energy to it.
Right.
And so there was when we were in Atlanta, well, I was by myself. You didn't come with me this time, but I was doing the meet and greet in Atlanta, which was amazing. Again, thank you so much, everybody who came out to see me. When I was doing the book signing portion, and I got a chance to talk with everybody, and we took some pictures and stuff, and there was these two young guys, all right, they're early 20s, all right, and they're part of this startup, and now the startup is doing really, really well. I think he said there's maybe 9 of them in the startup or 7, something like that, but they're doing really, really well right now, and it's glowing off of them. And so one of the guys, he got kind of, he got a little serious, and he asked me, he's like, so what do you do when, he's like, I'm really working on myself. I'm really reading my, personal development books. I'm applying things. And my girlfriend, she's just like not with me. She's not on the same path. And she's just like, you kind of like, you think you're so much better because you're reading this stuff now or whatever. And he's just like, it's just really tearing him apart, because he wants her to be with him. And and it was tough because I felt his pain, but not in the degree where she, he seems like she's kind of like whatever with this stuff. But I told him, first thing, number one, is you be the example. Even in the context of that irritation, that argument, that disagreement, show it. Yeah. Show that you're growing. Show that you're a more evolved human being. Show that you have more compassion. Show that you have more patience. Because a lot of people opt out because they say, I've tried everything.
Yeah. You haven't
tried
everything. Mm-hmm.
You probably tried like 3 things that work really bad, and you keep trying them over and over again.
That's right. And the test is even in the heat of that moment, even in the argument.
Yes.
Apply.
Be the example. Show what that love looks like so that they become more interested by the sheer knowledge of your being and how you are operating in the world. That's number one.
Sure.
And number 2 is with leading by example, it's allowing someone else to do the talking for you too, I think is important. So sliding somebody a podcast or a book or a video, something like that, or you guys getting together, going to an event, maybe you come out and you hang out with me at a live event, or you go to one of these other amazing people out there doing great work to help, change the world for the better. You go to a live event together, that kind of thing. Do something where someone else can add the voice in, because I know this quote, I don't like this quote, but you can't be a prophet in your own land. I don't believe it full force, but sometimes there is that example where, because a person, they know you, and they've seen who you are for, maybe it's 10 years, 15 years, and now you're different. It takes a while to wrap their mind around that, and so bring in some outside influence as well. All right. And be a ninja about that stuff right there, because they're like, why won't they listen?
Also, bringing it with whatever you're giving them without any expectation. I think that when you're giving that information, still at the end of the day, seeing them as they are and like reminding yourself on those little things. It can be big things at those moments, the little things that you fell in love with them to begin with, or why you like them. Why you even started to hang around them, because those things will kind of help you to, during those tough patches. Because I know I used to be an advocate for that. Was like, not only would I give you the information, but I would recite it to you, like Tony Robbins said A, B, and C. And I will go full throttle, where now I don't even have to, it's like, my body, my actions, my life is speaking for me. I don't have to speak.
Wow.
That's nice.
There's another important part here in this context of personal growth, and especially if your partner and you guys are not necessarily on that same track, is acknowledgement. It's so important to acknowledge the other person for anything that's in the positive direction. Yeah. Because we feed on that as human beings. It's like positive reinforcement, Absolutely. So if you acknowledge even a small thing, like she doesn't even know probably 90% of the times that I acknowledge her, but, like if something is done, like if it's, something with the food or whatever it is, well, I take that back. You do pay attention to everything. And then when I don't do something.
That's right.
But, make sure that you just find room to constantly acknowledge them. Like even today, when she went and grabbed that she wasn't, she wasn't in her 100% game this morning, feeling the best. And so she got up and she, took the boys, her son went to practice, and then one went to camp. And then she came back, she got on a rebounder and started doing her thing. And she was up there like doing like boxing punches. She did a double punch, which I've never seen a double punch work in real life. But she was like,
That's right. That's right.
We was listening to some, like positives. It was like Les Brown was on the radio.
Yes.
Playing that. And so she just really got in her zone. I'm like, baby, that's amazing. Like it just that little bit of acknowledgement But I felt it too. I want it, but sometimes you won't say
Yeah.
something. So I just like, I have to. I'm training myself
Good.
to just acknowledge the fact that that's awesome what you just did. And really, especially with guys, we're all about that. That's really what we want, is just to be acknowledged
Right.
for being a man and for doing even that's. If I just went and got you, you know, Chipotle and it's snowing outside, just acknowledge the fact that I did this for us. I care about you. You know, that a tiny bit of acknowledgement. You know, I might get 2,000 people standing ovation, but I want to know, did my wife think I did good?
Oh man.
You know, and it's just, even though that part of my brain is a little bit, it's tucked away more than most people because of this just self-love and self-care that I've been developing. It's not perfect, again, but it matters. And it's a primitive thing, and I love it. Like, when I get it, I'm like, I'm just, again, Scooby Snacks.
Right. That hard candy shell is filled with soft chocolate interior. You're an M&M.
I'll be that. Peanut M&M.
That's
so,
it.
last part I want to talk about here with the personal development is health.
Okay.
All right.
Absolutely.
If you're going to show up in the context of being your best self, you have to focus on making yourself as healthy and fit as you can. You know, like, this is, when it comes down to it, everybody's got a lot going on, especially if you have kids. If you've got kids and you want to have energy to even talk about, you know, getting busy, satisfying them, whatever it might be, you know, having a great relationship, having a great intellectual conversation, whatever the case might be, it gets exponentially harder if you're not healthy.
For sure.
So taking care of your health is paramount. And we've both, especially recently, you know, for a while, this is how we met. You know, we met in the gym.
I love this
when
story.
I was working at UMSL at the university we both graduated from.
Yeah.
And she came in, and, you know, eventually we had a conversation. And I saw this girl who, at the beginning, I just thought, it was like, that's awesome. Like, she's in here trained, like, she was focused, like, on that treadmill. I'm like, wow, look at her go, you know. But I wasn't.
Look at her go.
It was just because I've seen so many people in the gym, and I was focused on my clients. And this was a transitionary period in my life where I was focusing on me and all of the ugliness of my past relationships, and just trying to find a way to forgive myself and to grow. So I wasn't even looking necessarily for a relationship. And so I just saw that, and, you know, eventually we ended up having a conversation. And long story short, once we got together, she stopped showing up at the gym. Like, what happened? I thought you were like in this fitness stuff like me, you know. And but she was training to go out of town with her friends, you know, to the beach or whatever, you know. But
She was
now
still focused.
it's kind of changed. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, you know, I mean, it's what you were saying. Like, the last time I was here, and it's like going to the gym, but like, I'm done.
Right.
I'm
You know,
good.
done,
I'm all right.
Honestly, I feel like the health part really brought us closer. I think after going through, you know, some of my health issues as well as his, it's like, especially if we want to be here together for a long time. But to be honest, for me, I mean, just being for real, it's not even about being here for a long time. Is I want to look sexy for my husband.
Hey, now.
You know, I mean, like,
I'm just gonna clap. I'm gonna clap. I have to.
I second that. I second
you know,
that.
and just thinking of
Time
like,
to go.
no,
Right. We'll talk to
I'm
you.
sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead, baby.
you know, and just thinking of as time goes by, like how my body is gonna change. So
Oh,
on my vision board, I have an idea on how I want to look like when I'm 45.
Yeah.
Jada Pinkett Smith.
Shout out to Jada
Yes.
and Will.
So, but also having the healthy lifestyle, you know, being able to work out together, adds also another dynamic to our relationship. So it's like, even if we might have a little something and we still have to work out together, it actually even makes it better, you know, like we have some time to
A little something, me, little conflict.
yes, a little conflict. It just adds another dynamic. So overall, I mean, health is number one.
Yeah, definitely. And a big part of health, obviously, is nutrition. And one of the things that we use on a consistent basis for our kids and our family is this Organifi. And Organifi green juice. Go to themodelhealthshow.com/green juice. and you can get hooked up with this Organifi. Since I was just on the road in Atlanta and New York City, and I brought these instant packs with me that I'm holding here in my hand that I know is super simple because you got this tub here. It's a little bit more difficult going to airports, whatever. But these little instant packs, and you just pour it right into your water, and it tastes amazing for green powder. And I've tried like literally 15 different green blends, but I use Organifi. And the reason that this matters so much is that this is giving your body a super dose of micronutrients, of minerals, trace minerals, vitamins, enzymes, all these things your body requires in order to do functions. All right. If you're deficient on any range from, silica to magnesium to calcium, your body starts to not be able to do processes. Magnesium is responsible for over 300 biochemical processes. If you're deficient in magnesium, there's 300 things your body can't do right or do it all. So if we're going to be healthy, we have to take care of these things. And this is real health insurance. It's insuring your health. And so we've got the organic wheatgrass powder. We've got the organic moringa, which I'm going to talk about more. I could do a whole show talking about moringa. This stuff is super duper. The spirulina, you guys know I'm a huge fan of spirulina. Chlorella is one of the highest protein foods in the world. It's about 50% protein by weight. So it's up there in like the top 3 or 4 most dense sources of protein ever discovered. All right. And also the name chlorella, chlorophyll, super rich, probably the highest source of chlorophyll in any food that you're going to find. And chlorophyll is basically synthesized like sunlight, sun power. But it's a potent known kind of blood builder. It's very similar. It's plant blood, all right? And it's very similar to our blood. So the chlorella, and then we've got the good tasting stuff in there, the organic coconut water. We've also got ashwagandha in here. We've got turmeric for the anti-inflammatory properties. Guys, Organifi, they were on me. They actually just ordered 500 more copies of Sleep Smarter to give away to our community.
So
all right?
We blew through that first batch.
It's gone. It's actually been gone. Right. So they ordered 500 more books. So go to themodelhealthshow.com/green juice, and you're going to get 20% off your first purchase of Organifi. And they're going to give you a copy of my best-selling book, Sleep Smarter, for free, sent right to your door. So you're going to get Organifi, 20% off, and you're going to get a free copy of Sleep Smarter. So use the coupon code at checkout, MODEL, MODEL at checkout, and you're going to get hooked up big time. All right. So if you haven't already gotten on board with Organifi, I'm a huge fan. I use it all the time. I just had some yesterday. I haven't had mine today yet, and I brought my little travel pack. So after the show, I'm going to load up. All right.
Not on that one, though.
Huh?
That one there? You're going to use that one?
This is the one I have.
That particular pack right there?
This is the one I have. You trying to get it from me?
I was sliding my hand
It's all
over
good.
there.
I got a little extra here in my
That's funny you talked
canister.
About the difference between the travel pack and the canister. So yeah. I've tried everything to make funnels to make those fit into the bottles. Yeah. It is way nice to have the travel pack.
They pour right in.
But you can.
We've done it. Like you've seen me. I make like a paper funnel.
Yes,
I fold up some paper and put it into a bottle.
You do too.
But travel packs are really awesome.
Definitely.
So Organifi is the bee's knees,
Good
guys.
stuff.
So now let's go ahead and move back into our 5 keys to having an amazing relationship. And so just a recap really quick. So number 1 was help them to fulfill their number 1 driving force. Number 2 is to never stop dating. Number 3 is personal growth. And number 4 is to practice the 2 most important words in a relationship. Okay, the 2 most important words, not the 3, not the I love you. The 2 most important words in a relationship is I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Now, why does this matter so much? Well, in the context, especially in a disagreement, which is going to happen. All right. I remember when we were fresh, we were like 8 months into our relationship. Just like I was just, the whole thing, the love songs, just couldn't wait to see her. Didn't want to not be around her. And so I'm just like measuring everything. Like I get to see her in like 20 minutes, like this class is almost over, whatever it is. And I remember telling her this. I said to her, I don't think I could ever be mad at you.
All right.
What was wrong with me? What was I thinking?
At the time.
I said those
could
words
not
out
have
loud, not just even in my head.
Yeah.
I said those words out
You
loud.
could not have
I don't think I could
conceived.
ever be mad at
That's
you.
right.
Cut to,
Now you know.
yes, of course.
But
she
you know
would.
you're wrong for that. There's nothing.
And so, everybody's going to have conflicts
Yeah.
and disagreements and arguments. And that's a natural part of being in the space with one person. They're not always going to. Our big suffering is for when we want somebody to do what we think they should do, versus, them being their own sovereign individual. Of course, there's going to be some conflict. But that stuff really, honestly, and it's in the minority in our life now. It's like a small percentage when it used to be, it was on a pretty consistent basis for a while.
Right.
And it wasn't until in this last year, I've said I'm sorry probably more than I have in the past 11 years, and probably the year before that, it was more than, the past years, because I'm finding that you've got a choice of whether do you want to win? Do you want to win an argument, or do you want to be happy?
Sure. There's a quote I love that says, "It's not about who's right; it's about what's right."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. On our relationship, like saying I'm sorry was that. I mean, I would rather like drill a hole in my hands. Like, it could not come out of my mouth because I'd never. That was something in growing up, like that just did not happen. Mm-hmm. We just didn't do that. You just kind of act like we cool and we just move on, and obviously created like such a huge conflict in our relationship because he's just wanting to hear I'm sorry, and I'm just like, mm-mm. Right. But speaking to what we were talking about previously about self-growth and also being honest and just really looking at, why can't I actually say it? Because I know, and a lot of times it's not even saying I'm sorry because I am sorry, but you know what? I'm just sorry because like this is just ridiculous and it doesn't even matter. And a lot of times, and I picked this up from him, which is, when he really gets there to that point, and then I'll ask him or he'll ask me, is, am I with you or am I against you? And that automatically, you might want to say against, but you know the truth. Mm-hmm. And that moment is just to calm down and just, and saying, I'm sorry because I'm contributing to this toxic portion, and also another thing is when the two of you are good, that space, that field. And a lot of times as women, and I mean, I can beat anybody on their best day on carrying stuff, and I'm gonna act like I'm cool. I will even laugh, but I am carrying the stuff. And I used to be that person. And instead of having that clear air between the two of you, and it feels right. It feels good.
That's when you can work on things.
And that's when you can work on things. And once you get to that level, which obviously came again from working with myself, being honest, finding out the root causes and why am I like this, to get into that space. We're now to the point where if the energy is not right, my son feels it, and he will call you out. He will call you out immediately. Right. And he's the same way. He has to make sure that if he makes a mistake or vice versa, he wants you two to be good, like the space to be good.
4-year-old boy.
He won't move. He won't leave it alone until the space is good.
This is an example of like you create the energy. Rising tide raises all ships. He has that perspective in life, and he'll come like he generally 9 times out of 10 he knows the person. He's like, Daddy, say I'm sorry to Mommy, right? Or Mommy, say you're sorry to Daddy, please. And he knows what a powerful tool that is. But this might be the most difficult one of all the 5, because you have to really be human. As crazy as it sounds, all right? Because when you're in conflict, we naturally go to that amygdala, all right? So this more primitive part of your brain that's more concerned about self and self-preservation. And it's kind of automatic, all right? But to be in those moments when you're upset, when you're irritated, to remember to bring that greater consciousness and awareness back to the fold and say, like she mentioned before, is she actually against me? Does she want to hurt me?
Mm-hmm.
Can you remember what is her intention here? What is, and her being able to ask the same thing, is your intention to actually hurt me? Do you not like me? Do you really want me to suffer? No.
Right.
All right. If that's the context of your relationship, if it's truly like that, then you need to analyze whether or not that's the relationship to be in.
For sure.
However, if you can be completely honest with yourself in that moment, chances are they're not trying to make you suffer or to hurt you. They're hurting. They've got some kind of dissonance. They've got some kind of thing that they want to work out with you because they love you too. Yeah. But again, do you want to win or do you want to be happy?
Absolutely.
And just by saying, I'm sorry, you can create a space for you to actually have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And also too, I think that when you, especially with people who have kids, you just don't have that much time in a day, like, because we used to.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I mean, we would spend a lot of time. I
disagreements.
mean, like an hour, 2 hours just going at it back and forth. And when you have kids, it's like you have to shave that time down,
right.
like get down to the root cause, and at the same time still clearing that space so you're not carrying that, whatever, if that's little resentment, even if it's just a tad, like,
Right.
I don't get it. No, if you don't get it, like, we can talk another time where it's just like, you know what, babe, like that still didn't feel right to me, but and being able to continuously have that conversation, because we don't have that much time, especially when you have kids but you still want that energy to be fluid in the household.
Yeah, we do. We've been working on assuming best intentions first.
Yes.
And laying that out there as maybe it isn't the meaning that I'm attaching to it that's negative. Maybe the tone in his voice isn't what I've created on top of it. And it's making a real difference for us there.
I love that. Can you say it again?
Assume best intentions. Good intentions first.
Best intentions. Assume good intentions first.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Because we usually do the opposite.
We're like,
yeah.
Hold on. The edge comes up first.
But the way to get to that place is your own personal growth.
Yep.
Working on yourself so that you're able to have that tool ready instead of the reactionary. You can be in response.
Exactly.
Okay. That's the root of responsibility. It's the ability to respond.
Yeah.
Instead of being reacting.
For sure.
So this one is a really important one, but it's also, I think that this will bring the greatest connection and growth, like immediately, if you can kind of tune into this. And it's not necessarily, again, none of these things are an overnight success, but they can put your relationship in a whole new direction. But this one is something to work on. It can be challenging, but if you can do this, I think it'll really change the game for you. So,
for sure.
all right, now we're at number 5 here, guys. So number 5 on our 5 keys to an amazing relationship.
Amazing.
Number 5 is to turn irritations into admirations. All right, turn irritations into admiration.
Bring me the magic wand.
What do I mean by this? Well, a lot of times what we're arguing about are the stupidest things. I mean, just think about some of the things people argue about, like, you left the toilet seat up, which I don't do that. The toilet roll, the toilet paper roll might be whatever. So let me give an example. Let me give an actual real world example. So I used to be super irritated by when she would be making the list to go grab some food, go to the grocery store, which I used to do it a lot back in the day. But since things kind of changed with the schedule, she's been going. And so she go to the grocery store, and there's generally like one thing I specifically want, like a special thing, like I want this thing. And we'll just say maybe 7 out of 10 times she just wouldn't get it. She'd forget the one thing that I want. Okay, you got all this stuff for the household, but I want this one thing. Mm-hmm. And then I go to get it, and it's like, babe, what I asked, but I text you to remind you too. Like, how did you forget it? And it used to just really, like, I would get so mad. And now, literally now, if it happens, which it still happens from time to time, but I'll just be like, really, babe? Really?
You got me.
It's just like, but because I don't put so much attachment to it. And I think it's endearing, and I think it's cute. Like, you're not, because the thing was, it's like, I thought she was trying to hurt. Like, how could you sabotage me? I asked you this. Am I not that important to you? That all these crazy things would be in my mind. And I'm just now for the first time speaking them out loud.
Right.
But it was really, she wants me to be happy. She does not want me to be mad at her. She does not want a conflict. It's just because I think she was putting too much pressure on herself to not mess up, and for me to have the compassion and the love and the patience to see that, instead it's more endearing. And like really in reality, it doesn't happen as often now, but it still does. But it's just like, and another thing.
It's her
One
turn.
other thing.
You only get one.
No, she's like a habitual,
I know what you're about to
like serial killer of leaving packages open. All right, leaving tops off stuff.
Yeah.
Just last night,
my husband hates
when
that
I wrote
too.
this out already with the outline of the show, she did all this work to put this amazing meal in the crock pot, and she puts the lid half on. It's like, put the lid on.
Yeah.
It's not gonna cook.
get it.
And it's just like, but at first, I go to open, a bag of, fresh cacao that maybe cost, like this is back in the day when it cost like $40 or
man.
something, and it's just open, just getting exposed to oxidation, and I'm just like,
You don't want to see
But-
me angry. He has
and
a
so I'm
special
like,
set of skills.
just close the bag, just try and close it, but over time it just starts to be like, this is
Yeah.
cute, because her mom does the same thing. I go over to her mom's house, packages are half closed, like it's just
Because they're on the move. Have you seen them whip stuff
Yeah.
up in that kitchen? I've seen them both.
so.
They whip up the best things, and then there you go.
But I think you're right. Obviously, it's not that I'm trying to hurt. And the problem is, it's like taking it personal. And I would take it personal too. Like, and of course, feeling really bad about it, and which made me forget even more the next time I would go. I don't know why, but. I guess for me, one of the main ones, and I think that you've probably talked about this a little bit on the show, was it used to not only irritate me, make me angry, and I would shut down. And like I said, when I shut down, I mean, I'm cool. Like, I'm laughing. It might take even 6 months from now, but I will bring it up, which was, he was just so aggressive. And especially like intense when we're having, if it's an argument,
just daily stuff, though.
just daily stuff.
Yeah.
And I wasn't used to that. I come from a background where everybody in the house, like, we were very, like, we used our
inside
voice, and
a lot of times
like
you didn't see.
yeah, and
that
like
stuff.
if I would seemingly yell, or if I would outly show my frustration, my mom would be like, okay, you need to go meditate. Like, you didn't, when did you do a meditation? Go. So living with him initially, but the funny part was, I loved his aggression on other things, how his work ethic, what, like I said earlier, like if he has his focus on something, he goes at it with that aggression. And
including my focus on you.
yes,
Oh,
exactly.
boy.
Exactly.
Yes.
So one day when I, and this was obviously from a lot of talking, and this took a long time. This was one of the things that, maybe in the past, 2 years where I've really gotten comfortable and loving it, was it just dawned on me like, wow, he actually does have that lion tattoo, on his chest. He does roar, like he's a roar and he's a lion. And that's what I love about him. And it's right there, And now when I see him do it, it's actually, I think it's cute. Like, it's just like, or I might be like, okay, babe, especially when he's hangry. Oh my gosh, you know. But I think it's just cute, and I'll just be like, boys, go get a Snicker, like. and then and that kind of also breaks him down, like breaks down the intensity level when he sees my love, because he used to pick up from my shock value,
right.
and that makes him more mad. Like, why are you acting like I'm about to kill you? And,
right. Yeah, exactly.
And
that's so true.
So I think over time too, that also made him see how much I cared about him and loved him. Because at the end of the day, I love this saying, seeing what is as it is. Seeing what is as it is. Seeing him as it is. It's not a matter of changing any aspect of him. If he was only just this way, just a little bit this way, those are the same aspects that I loved about him initially, you know, and what changed?
Right.
You know, what are those things that changed that it's that comfortability, and then all of a sudden as women we always think we can change somebody in some aspect, you know, if you do something. And just getting back to that, just looking at him as he is. And then you find the beauty of it. And when you do that, then he becomes even more receptive.
Sure.
Because he sees that I am being more open and giving me more love.
And even, you know, scripturally, a gentle word turns away wrath. So you brought in humor, a smile, or kindness that brought that all down. Yeah. And it worked. So most certainly, as a side note, bring some joy and some humor back in whenever you can.
Yeah.
And that can help alleviate a whole lot of tension.
I've done that more with her.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't really, well, of course, being with me this amount of time, that aggression is there, more present.
Yeah, but that
more so it was
too.
like, more so it was like very timid and
serious.
And then it's like, whoa,
watch out. Yeah.
Who are you? You know, just flipping out. Like, was it I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker? You remember that movie?
I do.
When she just basically turned into a monster, a zombie or whatever. And so, but for me, even when those moments would get close, I'm like, did you hear this? Like, I'll make jokes about it for like 2 weeks, you know, like, did you know you said this? She's like, whatever, you know. But, you know, to diffuse it. But for me, she just said it. I'm a very, just by nature and nurture, you know, an aggressive person, you know. And so, again, I grew up in an atmosphere where everybody talked loud. Like, this is how you communicate. And so by being in those situations where we're not even necessarily there's not a conflict there, but I'm being aggressive about it. And she's just like, you know, like, and immediately my brain and her brain are start to
defense
going, like, she's going into defense, and then I'm going into defense, and then it's just like, but there was nothing there.
No win
it's
there.
just my personality. And then once this would start to come out, I'm even asking the question, because of the personal growth you can see and ask the questions. Why are you wanting to change me? This is who I am. And there's, you know, and then she just said, like, there's great things about that. I just don't want you to be that now.
Right.
Don't be yourself now. You know what I'm saying? And so what I would do, this is what actually happened is, once I realized that I didn't want to change, I liked myself. At the same time, I saw that for her to get connected and to love that part of me again and to see like everything she just described, I need to be a little bit more reserved in certain spots.
Try a little tenderness.
You know? And so she knows that when her senses start to heighten, I can see, okay, I'm growling a little too loudly. Let me just, you know, but I'm not changing who I am. I'm just loving her more and being more patient. She's gonna let me roar, you know. She's gonna let me be myself.
Tame that tiger now.
And so, just by creating that space, both of us, again, with that work, coming together and making that happen for each other. And it's just all of these small things we're talking about. I first heard Wayne Dyer say this quote: when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. All right, so you immediately can start to see the beauty in those small things that might get on your nerves, and maybe even laugh about it, maybe even tell a joke, maybe even kiss the person or hug them or thank them, or just be grateful that you have somebody there who will leave the toilet paper roll empty or leave the toothpaste, you know, squeezing it the wrong way. Be happy that you have those other hands there. To give you that experience. So
love that.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the show today. I hope that you got a lot of value out of this. This is very intimate and important for me in this moment, because I have the person who has changed everything about me without trying. You know, she didn't have to do anything. Just her being helped me to become the best version of myself. You know, she's been like the fertilizer for me to grow. And that's what it's really about. It's not about thinking that somebody's going to complete you or that you're not whole in and of yourself, because you are. It's being with that person and cultivating that relationship where they help you to grow and to see how great you really are. And that's what she's done for me. And I love you so much. So thank you.
I love you too.
So everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the show. We've got some amazing guests coming up, amazing show topics. So make sure to stay tuned. Head over to themodelhealthshow.com. You can get the links to what we've talked about today, and also make sure to check out Organifi at themodelhealthshow.com/green juice, and keep it going, guys. We are making a big difference out there, and it's because of you, being a part of this model nation, and not just gaining this knowledge, but applying it and being the walking, talking representation of this. And your relationship is the biggest, most important part of your success and your health. So make sure to put some focus on that and dial it in. All right. Take care. Have an amazing day. And I'll talk with you soon.